Ever since our Master of Puppets review, this band has really been growing on me like a nasty wart. I still stand by everything that I said in that review, but much of their vision has really grown on me, especially now that I've gotten more of this context and I know a little bit more about the history of Metallica. Even though it's super simple music, something that, you know, we're traditionally not big fans of, at the end of the day, what I'm looking for in terms of something that's going to be high on my scale is diversity and inspiration. This is something that's going to make me pick up my guitar and want to play along with it. And early Metallica, I think, really checks both of those boxes, with Ride the Lightning as no exception. An album that, I'm gonna say it, yeah, I think I liked a little bit more than Master of Puppets. The reason I say it's a little bit better than Master of Puppets, at least as an album, is the diversity. There's plenty of course, Metallica formula on here. Ooh, yeah! But it's also paired with some really elegant, clean sections that open up the song, some slower but still aggressive tempos. And each track really has its own unique identity.
Especially with Cliff still part of the band at this time, and the way that they really just had this explosive, hard-hitting sound.
Cliff, the fucking animal. Did you see that Cliff Amal video? Holy shit, this guy shreds harder than Eddie Van Halen on bass.
Such a shame.
Without further bovine excrement, I'm Darius King.
And I'm Metalhead.
This is Fight Fire with Fire. What I was saying earlier about the clean sections is no better highlighted within the first seconds of this song, as James and Kirk take you on a nice gondola ride.
It starts off really strong with the classical guitar approach, very well layered, put together, and then it has the perfect explosion of metal.
Since they're fighting fire with fire, I guess James' strategy was to start one with friction on his guitar. He's such an animal picking the notes, they almost blend together into one big note.
Yeah, no, we always, give a lot of flack to
a certain drummer.
For this album, though, I will, and especially this song, he seemed to bring a lot better arrangements and like more actual trying. For this one, it's definitely heavier, thunderous, and it complements the explosive riffs from Kirk and James.
I think most of the complaints are about later Lars.
He's not a good drummer. He really isn't. Any good drummer will tell you that he's not.
The lyrics themselves aren't horrendous, but it's the approach. Time is like a fuse, dark and burning fast. I was like, is this fourth grade?
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of your typical Cold War track, but I mean, hey, never more relevant than now. Not one that stands up against some of the other great ones on this album, but still a pretty solid opener. I wouldn't push you out of the car if you put this on.
Yeah, if this was on a road trip, you definitely wouldn't have to be worried about being pushed out.
This one just has one of those openings that you know as soon as the first seconds play where you're getting into. I really like the guitar tone, probably even more than the Master of Puppets tone. This is coming from a big 2C Plus fanboy too, so you know I mean that. I just thought the tone was a little bit richer and contributes to the atmosphere of songs like this. A song that literally sounds like you're listening to it in a cave in hell. Young Hetfield's voice works so well, especially on the tracks at moments like, oh God, please help me. It's a mix of that, devilish growl we're used to with him, but a little bit more of the high pitchedness adds to that haunting atmosphere.
Cliff comes out and does his own insane work. When he figured parts of songs were getting a little more mundane, he would throw in his own intricate aspects.
Kirk channeling EVH is not something you hear too often with the tapping. Everything here from the perspective and the lyrics to the details like the shrieks at the end contribute to this really creepy vibe present on this whole album, but especially here, and makes this one of the more essential metal songs of the 80s. And it's not even the best song in the album, but it's certainly on my playlist.
Oh, it does well for the name track of the album. That's why it gets the Metalhead seal of approval.
This one right here. This song is a prime example of what I was talking about earlier. One of those songs that, doesn't need to be complex to connect with a listener. This is a song that K-Mac would do a video, those guy plays a song without learning it, except he'd probably nail it first try. But it's how they put each simple riff together that makes it stand out.
Especially Cliff. Can't not talk about Cliff. First time listening to it, I thought, oh, that's a cool guitar riff. I do agree with what you said. It's not more of the intricate one, but it's just arranged so much better. And the timing on the drums, the timing on the guitar, the timing on the vocals, everything was well layered and put out for the song.
Things like the chord progression are a perfect backdrop for one of Cliff's best lines of his career. And the shifts underneath Kirk's mesmerizing riff too that distract you while James and Lars set up the next pieces. And credit to Lars, I did like the break in his rhythm here. James's verses almost have a kind of military march feel to them, with the firmness he delivers with each word in the rhythm.
Definitely one of James's best vocal performances on this album, and he's just so good at projecting that evilish, heavy, just death sound.
The different chromatic riffs and the Ride of the Lightning production never made Dying sound so cool. Long time resident of the playlist, and especially the S&M version.
Yeah, this one has always been and will continue to be on the playlist.
I always felt, ironically, that Metallica's biggest strengths were with a clean and acoustic guitar. This one almost sounds kind of like a precursor to Nothing Else Matters, but maybe with a little bit more balls.
This song is its own unique identity. The clean section is very attractive. Explodes right into the metal riffs. That was so well done.
It balances the moodier tone with an almost triumphant undertones, very similar to some of the stuff that we've heard from Maiden. Everything is very well executed in the direction they choose to go and gives the track list much diversity. Another standout and another addition to the playlist.
Always will be on the playlist.
Did you have anything to say about this one?
No, I did not have anything to say.
It's just straight guitar abuse, just like violent banging the shit out of it. The opening riff is a great showcase of the dynamic between Kirk and James. The amount of reverb on Kirk's solo was monstrous too.
Of course, Cliff always keeping his end tight, but after that, I'm not really sure why the song continues.
Outside of that, it doesn't do too much to add to the track list, and again, a few hints of Maiden shine through on this one too. Still not an awful song to put on a road trip though.
Yeah, I was feeling pretty middle of the road on this.
You could just copy and paste what I said about the last one.
Yes.
Again, killing it with the clean tone, especially how they take it from that more centered, more monotone right into the stereo where it fills up the whole stereo space.
And the build up into matching that with the heavier riffs is really well done, but very formulaic kind of after the first minute and a half, 2 minutes or so.
Yeah, it was a little bit lengthy, but I thought stuff like Cliff's wah bursts are nice accents to the main riff. The main riff almost sounds like the theme to an old school horror movie. Not as much as a standout to me as an instrumental like, say, Orion. Parts like Kirk's solo aren't really anything new we've heard from him on this album, but I do think it's still in the upper half of the track list, so this one gets the Darius King seal of approval.
Yeah, although this one isn't my favorite, it's definitely nothing I'm going to push you out of a moving car while listening to.
Overall, yes, I'd say I did enjoy this one slightly more than Master of Puppets. While I feel like Master of Puppets certainly did have better individual songs, I thought it had a little bit more life and diversity within the track list. The pacing was a little bit better. The production really adds to this overall haunting, creepy, unsettling feel that I think they were able to master on this one.
I agree. It's tough between these two. I think Master of Puppets for me gets a little bit of an edge on this album, just a little bit, not by much. Both of them have great aspects, but also suffer from just pieces that you wonder, why is this here? I think their first album was better. The overall mix I thought was a little dated. You know, I can't fault that too much because of the money they had at the time when they got this produced. It's a piece of metal history that will always be looked to for inspiration due to those standout tracks.
While there are a few formula moments, pacing of the album I feel is superior. From the heavy and fast opener to the slower and aggressive bell tolls to ballads like Fade to Black, the variety is undeniable and puts this at least in their top 2 for me, and puts plenty of these tracks on the playlist.
Definitely not getting thrown out of a moving car.